yeah, so we'll first like explore a little bit what you do on a day-to-day basis and what you're trying to do, so that I can get some kind of idea of what will be most important for you to focus on and what will be kind of more negligible, or like a lower order of priority for you.
Sure.
And then I guess we'll specifically go through the things that exist in the game, the systems that exist in the game that you might not fully understand yet, or that you could use some extra clarification on. And then with those two major pieces of information, I guess we'll look at your account and then see where the biggest gains can be made for you in your personal situation.
Gotcha.
So let's start with your day to day. Like, what do you do in a day? What do you do in a week? And what are you trying to achieve in the game right now?
So, um, my biggest thing was always just training a bunch of characters.
Hmm.
So I used to play a lot back in the day. When I started back up about a month ago, I was already at like 2.2k Legion.
Okay.
Um, and now I'm at like 3.6. So that was my main priority, but I think now I want to switch my priority to making my main stronger. And while I'm not quite sure Adele will be my main forever, I want to at least get it to a point where it's comfortable doing something like solo CRA. Um, and then if I want to switch mains at that point, I'm cool with that.
Okay. Um, so you switch priorities because of the event, basically, right?
Yep.
Okay. And well, that's good, right? Because it's good to have a priority of like these dailies, these weeklies, like these get me where I want to get, where I want to go. But it's always also important to look at events and see how those can, temporarily shifting your priorities towards events, how they can get you to the finish line, or to your intended goal, whatever you want to call it, a lot faster. So that's good that you're keeping an eye on that, and that you're also realigning now after the event being gone and being like, okay, how do I reset these priorities and where do I go from here? So solo CRA, and then perhaps like party Lotus and Damien, something like that. But
Yeah.
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 Also, of course, the added value of being able to solo CRA will help you perhaps do exchange carries for other characters, so you could
Yep.
progress your characters faster. And Adele is a really good class there because it'll allow you to solo CRA like I think faster than pretty much any other character. The only other one that comes close, I think, is Dual Blade. Um, these are like the two characters that I soloed CRA with as well before level 205. Their
Yeah,
kits
I
are
watched
just
your
insane.
video on the 6k base stat,
Yeah.
or 6k strength, watching it, or soloing it.
Yeah, I have a big Legion and Link skills though, so that does account. That does give you a lot of extra damage. Most of that damage doesn't come in stat. It comes in like critical rate, critical damage, boss damage, and IED, which are
Hmm.
like your invisible range stats, but that give you a lot of extra damage. So we'll probably also focus on those and trying to make sure that we get those at the right amounts. Okay, so Solo Serie, perhaps Party Lotus and Damien, but not over investing right now because you are still investigating other classes to see what you could main, or
Yep.
okay. And have you found any that you like so far?
I liked Xenon. Um, there were a couple other ones that stuck out, like Hoyoung and such.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you enjoyed like the mobbing so far?
Yeah, mobbing. Um, big thing for me is just having utility so that I'm actually. I mean, I don't have anyone I really play with, or I've never really done like any guild activities, but
Mm-hmm.
eventually, if I want to get into that, I want to make sure that I have some utility. So,
Mm-hmm. Um, I'm thinking where the Hoyoung utility is, because they actually have like counter utility. Because if you use your iframe, you actually lag your party.
yeah.
Um, but I mean, you don't have to give up all of your fun in game for utility. I do have a utility score under my classification. I don't know if you've
Yep.
seen that. Yeah, have you seen that?
I have,
Okay, okay,
yes.
yeah. Yeah. So if you don't want to go like super overboard and be like the hard support, but you do want to have decent ways of being able to help the party. Of course, it's always kind of hard to grade that, right? In some in some boss fights, it might be the utility might be not very necessary, so it'll have like a lower effective score, and in other boss fights, it might have a way higher effective score. You know, it kind of depends on how the whole party has to gravitate towards just huge bursts and just basically around DPS or around DPM where you're just continuously dealing damage, depending on if the boss is flying around or if it's just standing still, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a little bit different there. Okay. Yeah. Adele is getting like some nerfs over the next months, most likely. I think they get like three more rounds of nerfs over the next 6 months. But they will stay like a top tier class. They're still like top 3, I think, in KMS, and I don't think they'll like drop out of the top 3 or top 5 for GMS either. It's more just to make them a little bit less ridiculously OP, but that's gonna be about it from what I can tell. Yeah. So what level are you at right now?
I'm about to hit 207. I've made a little bit of progress. Those screenshots, I mean, I switched up my Legion from that screenshot because the Legion was just very temporary due to me just
Yeah, just
putting all my focus into
into Umbra.
actually training it.
Mm-hmm.
So now I have it allocated in attack, crit rate, boss damage, and crit damage.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if I should have some in ignore defense.
We'll look at that.
Okay.
But you're at 3.5K now.
Yep, 3.6.
3.6. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we can use that to get into IED. Do you know how IED works? How it's calculated and everything?
It's like you take the percent of the percent already, correct?
You take the percent of the percent you're missing.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
what.
Yeah, to get up to 100. Yeah. So every source is calculated as an individual chunk. In your Legion, it's not like every single square is calculated individually, but it'll like take it to a number of percentage that you will see in the bottom right in the grid bonus, and then that percentage will be calculated as one source. So the smaller your grid is, the smaller the maximum possible source is. So now it'll be up to 13%, which is where it starts counting, right? If you would do it when you were like 1,000 Legion less, then even if you fill up all the IED, it would only be a source of 6%, right? Which would be rather shitty. Once you get to 13, it's pretty good. And then the next one is 21, right? If you fill it up completely, and then it goes to 30 and then to 40. Because every time the grid grows, it's also an extra hex that you open up, right?
Yeah.
So the bigger your Legion gets, the more valuable it becomes to actually put points in. Yeah, sorry, go.
I did some calculations and I figured if I got 27 characters to level 140 and then every other character in the game to like 70-ish, that I would hit like 5.5, which unlocked like 27 characters I could put on the grid.
Mm-hmm.
So I got 27 to 140, and then I'm planning on just training everyone else through the like Fairy Academy and shit to 70.
Yeah, just some theme dungeons.
Yeah, so that's my plan with Legion, is to stop at 5.5.
So the thing is, most people will stop at 6 because at 6 is when you unlock the last hex of the screen and you actually get access to the full board.
Okay.
Because it's like 3, so you're at 3.5 now, right? So 4 gives you one extra hex, 5 gives you another one, and then 6 gives you the full board. So, and then
Gotcha.
if you fill out IED and critical damage, for example, that's like a chunk of 20 critical damage, 40 IED. And then depending on how big the characters is, that could also give you some crit rate, but crit rate for Adele is probably not needed. I think there are other sources that you can use to get to 100% on Adele.
I'm already at 100%.
Without any in critical rate in
What
the
does that
Legion.
mean?
Yeah, like in
Oh
Legion.
no, I do have summon crit rate.
Yeah, so I think eventually it's possible to get to 100% crit rate on your Adele without needing any in the grid, and then you can really just primarily focus on boss damage, IED, and critical damage, and then the middle blocks are just used to connect the other great stats together, and not so much used for damage.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that's why most people aim for 6K, but I'm not telling you like you have to make a plan now for 6K. One thing that you could do is instead of giving your characters to 70, what I usually do is I just get them instead to 70, try to get them to 100, and then I just do daily Zakum with all of them. And then just log in, do Zakum, log into another character, do Zakum. Like that's all I do, because you'll get a short, huge burst of experience. But if you can get that short burst continuously with a lot of characters, it's like you're constantly training at like 300% experience basically. But you're just leveling them over a long period of time until they get to like 140. Up till there, I think Zakum experience is very good.
The grind from 70 to 100 is not my favorite, is the issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got like a lot of drakes in there, which is a very busy map. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe some of the 140s you like so far. Maybe you'd rather push those instead. I'm not sure. There are some useful characters to get to 200 rather than leaving them at 140. Thinking about specifically like Hayato, Jet, and Shade. Getting those from 140 to 200 gives you 2% critical damage extra, which is essentially the same as filling 4 hexes in critical damage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, they're in getting 1 extra square on the character, you're actually gaining, like, essentially gaining 5. So they have, like, very high efficiency there. And maybe some characters that you're already closer to 200 with. I don't know if you like the Night Lord or the Aaron more.
I haven't played those in a very long time.
Okay. Aran your Pemus. Nice.
Yeah.
Thief Queef. Nice.
Those were made a long time ago.
Uh-huh. You've grown so much since then.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but yeah, so something to think about. I'm not telling you like you have to. I'm just saying that there is a lot of extra value for going for 6 eventually.
Yeah, I enjoy training other characters, so I definitely will set that as my goal.
Okay. For the general priority list and the characters there, have you seen the Legion, the links grid that I have?
Yep. I pretty much have all my level 140 characters are ones that are important either link skill wise or Legion skill wise. So.
Okay, good. Or both probably. Some of them are pretty good at both now.
Yep.
So since we were on the topic of IED, like which of the IED ones do you have? Do you have all of those?
As in like Beast Tamer and like Blaster it is?
Beast Tamer, Blaster, yeah, and then we have Luminous and the Magus and Ho Young that can also give IED.
I have Bishop and Hoi Young, but not the other 2 mages.
Okay. Well, since I did see that your IED is, if you want to get the soloing CRA, we definitely need to work on the IED. It's very important.
Right.
Do you know how IED works, like in comparison to PDR for bosses?
I have no clue what PDR is.
So PDR stands for physical damage reduction, and it's a stat that bosses have that's basically just armor. And then IED is basically your penetration to ignore the armor, is essentially what those stats mean. So lower level bosses will have barely any armor, and you can just destroy them. An example of bosses without any armor is, for example, elite monsters. You can kill those, and usually you do more damage even on those than on regular monsters because your boss damage comes in, but there's no armor coming in. You still kill them more slowly because they have 10 times the HP, of course. But and once you get to higher level bosses, they will have more and more armor, more and more PDR, and the PDR is expressed in a percentage. So let's say that a boss has 100% PDR. If you have 55% IED, that means you ignore 55% of the 100% armor, which leaves 45%, which means you get a final damage reduction of 45%. So you just do all your calculations, however much damage you would output, you only deal you deal 45% less. So you, in that case, you would only deal 55% of your damage.
Gotcha.
But some of the
Now,
bosses go over 100%, and that's like CRA and higher is where those things start coming in. So if Vellum has 200%, for example, and Lotus and Damien have 300%, and everything beyond has 300%. So if you have a 200% defense boss, you're ignoring 55%. You're ignoring 110 out of the 200, so that leaves you with 90. So you're only going to do 10% of your damage in your current state to Vellum.
gotcha.
So,
Now there's a IED calculator, correct?
yes.
Is that because the one in stats is not accurate, or?
Yes. So your stats one is regardless of what attack you use and regardless of what monster you attack, that's the IED you get. However, certain attacks can have specifically boosted IED that is only calculated on hit because your game doesn't know which attack you're going to use. Same thing with they don't know what monster you're going to use. A monster could be debuffed by an IED debuff, but your calculation doesn't know that when it's going out. And that's what the number in the screen means. Also, the number in the screen is rounded, so you don't know exactly where it's at. Now, of course, if you're at 54 or 55, that doesn't make a huge difference. But if you're going to be in the late game or in the end game, you're going to be at 96 or 97, that's going to be a huge difference, right? Because it's a percentage of how much you're missing. And to go from 96 to 97, you need to pretty much add like a 30% line. Whereas going from 54 to 55, that's probably like adding a 5% line or something, right? So it's that's why that's a huge difference, or that's only like a 2% line even, yeah. So that's why something like in your hyperstats, adding to an existing source is very good, right? So if you already have level 5 there, going from level 5 to level 8 would be better than going from level 0 to level 3, right? Well, also because above 5, the number goes up. And that's why putting it in Legion, once you start getting to the point where you have more hexes available in Legion, so you can make a bigger chunk of IED, that's why those will get more and more available. More valuable, sorry.
Gotcha.
So the goal, so the calculator is a good point to see like where you're at. Some of the sources that are invisible for your stat window, for example, that will make, if you put literally everything in, will make the number go higher is, for example, once you hit level 40 boost nodes, although I don't think you're going to be close to that yet. No. And that will give you an extra 20% on the attacks that you have at level 40. And there's also hyper passives, for example. I'm sure Adele has one of those, right? Where you boost like certain types of skills and give those extra IED.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's also something that doesn't show up because it's only selective skills. So that's only also. But if you always use those skills to attack, then that's effectively 100% uptime your IED. And then there's also a debuff that Adele has, but it can be reset when the boss resets, right?
Which?
It's like a blue and pinkish circle is like the icon. It might be a hyper skill.
Oh, Grave Proclamation, I believe.
Yes, I think it's like a debuff, right? I think it gives you 10% extra ID or something on your target.
Yep.
And there's also ID that you can get that you can build up from your stacks. And then there would also be extra ID if you get those 3 mages and you stack those together at level 120 at least. That could give you up to 9% of a debuff on bosses as well.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these are invisible. So if you're going for all of these and you add these to your current to a current ID calculator, which will probably give you something like 54 or 55, right? And then you add all those invisible sources as well, you'll probably see that you're already going to be at like 70 or something. If you add the Luminous Link skill, that's one that I would definitely prioritize. That's like an easy 15%. To get, if you get that to 120, and Luminous is pretty strong as well. The very early stages of the character are a little bit wonky, but once you get through that, the ID there is pretty easy to get. And those explore.
Luminous. I got all of those. After my Link skills, I'm at 66 IED.
Okay. See, that's already quite a lot better. You see, even like with a 200% defense boss, right? If you go from 55 to 66, then instead of 90% of your damage being blocked, now it's quick maths 130, 132. So now it's 68%. Yeah, so now instead of doing 10% of your damage, you're doing 32% of your damage. You just tripled your damage. And that's how it works until you get to a certain amount. So the amount of IED that you want to aim towards, if you look into the progression tab, you can see like the amount of IED that I would advise you to be at. And that's basically dependent on how much PDR the bosses have in that stage. So that's where those numbers come from. It's more like how many sources do you realistically have access to? How many of those sources exclude other sources of damage that are more important, right? Because if something gives you IED, but it comes at the expense of percentage attack or percentage boss damage, then it's a more expensive source of IED. So you want to exploit all this, the cheaper sources of IED, right? That don't come at the expense of something else useful. And then once you're there, then you want to start min-maxing with the sources that overlap. So that's why we have the weapon secondary emblem calculator as well. That takes as an input, like what is your current IED, what is your current percentage damage already, what is your current percentage attack already, and then tries to min-max within the lines of the weapon, the secondary, and the emblem. Like how can we arrange these stats appropriately to make sure that you are doing what you want to do and going where you want to go in the current stages of the game. That's something for later. That's probably for after you're like Lotus and Damien, once you're really more aiming for those, because like I said, those have 300% PDR, and that's when you really gotta start thinking about prioritizing IED. C-Val used to be 300% as well, which why he was so difficult for people early on, but bumped him down to 200 to make it a little bit more favorable, which is good because we also lost the Codex 30% IED. So I don't know if you were ever around in those times.
I think briefly.
Yeah, that was like the easiest 30 IED to get, but you know KMS doesn't have it and they played around with it, so it's got to be doable, but just a little bit harder. So you can see the functional ID here. So functional is what you get out of the calculator, right? If you use that one. So you're probably aiming towards, like 220, right? Until like end mid game. That's kind of like the end game goals is like solo CRA, trying to do CPAP and Lotus Damien in a party, right? That's kind of what you're aiming for.
Yep.
So you'll basically be looking for all of these numbers at the end of the, so you might be a little bit on the lower end because this is also trying to be a little bit future proof. So you're like already on your way to the beyond stage, right? So if you're planning on just sticking here, being a little bit on the lower end is not a big deal, right? Because it says main stat here 13k. If you're like 10 or 11, or even like around there, like that will probably be fine as well, right? This is also because you're like on your way, so you can definitely err on the side of caution there. Legion level here, you're like already beyond, so that's already set for now, but you're trying to, you know, get another character that you're aiming for this, right? You're aiming for late probably on another character.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that you want to have that foundation of like this goal here. So right, that's why I mentioned the 6k here.
Right.
Yeah, so a functional IED of like at least 90, I would say, for so yeah, you can aim a little bit lower, like so 90 is probably like the sweet spot now for C-Val. 90% of the 200% ignored is 180, so you're still dealing with 20% final damage. But as an Adele, that will be fine, and you'll be over leveled over Vellum, which will give you another 10% final damage there. So it'll kind of cancel out. If you go as high as 92 functional, then that would be great. But you can see every percent gives you like 2% extra final damage. That you go above, so yeah, but like 90 functional is probably what you want to aim for. So that's a lot from now. So we can check !ID, and we can look at the sources to see which ones you don't have yet, which ones would be easy to get. Ambition trait, that's probably slowly leveling up, right? Do you know about the traits?
Yep.
Equip base stats, that's probably not going to happen for a bit, so we'll skip that one for now. Although you'll probably get, you'll be able to do 3-door first, right? You'll be able to do Von Bon Chicken, Queen probably a bit before Vellum, which if you do wear those pieces, they all have a little bit of ID on them, so that will help you as well a little bit to get closer. WC Potential Lines is something we'll look at in a little bit. Set bonuses is something we'll also look at when we It won't be super priority because at most I think you can get one 10% line out of your boss accessory set, and that's about it. Gollux is out of the question now. Gollux is way further down the line. Legion Grid, we will look at that. Legion Member we already looked at, but Legion Grid, we'll see if that's necessary because like I said right now, it's going to be a small source, right? It's going to be up to 13% only, and it's going to be an expensive source because it's going to go at the expense of the things that you already had. But you have it now in... IED, crit damage, and summon boss and summon crit rate? No, you didn't have an IED, right? Just crit damage,
No
crit rate, and
ID,
boss. Yeah, okay. So we'll look if that's necessary. If that switch will actually give you more damage. It's kind of hard to calculate, but we'll see if that's possible. Because you're only using the middle for a connector now, right? Just between the left and the right side?
I'm actually using the middle for attack still.
Okay, so that's still... So how many pieces could you take out of attack without connecting the left and the right?
Let's see. I could take a good like 12 pieces off or so. 12
Okay.
squares.
Just okay.
That one's old. There's actually summon strength on that picture. But
Yeah. I'm just looking at it for like the size because I'm looking like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. I think it's like 11 you can take out. 1, 2, 3, 4.
yeah.
Which would be only almost a full IED. Yeah, because like I said, right, like even changing those sources of IED you just did, that gives you like 3 times your damage compared to how much 11 attack gives you, right? It doesn't even come close to comparing, right? So in the beginning, you're just filling up strength and attack because that's all you have access to in the middle of the grid, and it makes perfect sense. Later on in the game, your value of attack compared to strength, one attack is always better than one strength, right? Because of how the calculations work in our game and how many sources we have. But since the strength grid gives you 5 and the attack gives you 1 attack, eventually the strength actually becomes better than the attack because of how calculations work and because of how limited our sources of percentage attack are and how abundant our sources of percentage strength are. So probably at your state already, if you would switch the attack for strength instead, I think you'll see a slight increase in your damage already.
Let's try it.
So it becomes, sometimes when you switch it though, it doesn't immediately update your stats, I've noticed. Like I've switched my Legion to HP on my DA before, and then my HP stayed the same until I like went into cash up or changed channel or something. Sometimes it's not always switching.
Yeah, it already went up.
Yep. Oh, there you go. And since both attack and strength are like 100% visible in your range, right? That does mean that you can compare them in that way. It's not like critical rate, critical damage, boss damage. But once you get into the other sources that don't show up in your range, like IED, that will end up, if you know how it's calculated, know how PDR works, and know how valuable it can be, once you throw it into the calculator, right, and you take a hidden range of like, I don't know, like 5%, but your final damage on a 200% boss goes up by like 10%, because you're switching your Legion, then you can see that that's way more efficient. You're going to take a little bit of a hit in damaging normal monsters, but usually that doesn't affect your kill speed that much. But you're going to take a huge boost if you're going to be attacking bosses. So that's probably what we're going to move. Then familiars and badge effects. I don't know if you've worked
Not
on
at
that.
all.
Okay.
I tried to look up material for familiars and such, and a lot of it was still like outdated, I think, because it kept telling me to kill big spiders and shit.
Oh, okay. Have you seen my familiar guide?
I have not.
I see.
Or maybe I have, but very briefly.
Yeah, I've updated it a little bit as well because, well, we were kind of in familiar limbo for a while there because, because they released it and then they were like, we're going to keep it like this. And then 24 hours later, they were like, no, we're not going to keep it like this. Mr. Carlos, thank you for the 6 months, my dude. So we're going to just, carefully readjust and downsize the drop rate for familiars by about a factor of 1,000, if you don't mind. Then everyone was like, well, what the fuck? Now we can't do anything with the system. And then they said, like, well, we'll take it offline and look at it later after the current event that we're working on. So between that, a lot of people were like working on guides, but we didn't really know what to put in there. So
Gotcha.
so this is my familiar guide. Basically, it's like all the raw numbers of what you get when you level them up, what you can do with them if you level them up, how leveling them up, tiering them up works, extracting how many points you get, what you have to do to unlock extra slots, how the summon gauge works, how the badges work, and which ones, like the set bonuses that exist, what the limitations are there, what you can buy in the familiar shop, and like my comments on that. And then basically just at the end it has like advice on what you want to go for, what you want to aim for, that kind of stuff. People specifically typically want advice on like where to go, which maps to be in. In general though, like the stronger the monsters you kill, sorry, not the stronger, the more monsters you kill, typically the more cards you get. Just try to go for monsters that drop both common and rare cards, because then you can basically double dip, because those are seen as like separate drops. Rare cards aren't specifically that much better than common cards, because you're going to be aiming for the same lines. It's only epic and higher that are significantly better, but those don't drop. And if you would want to get them, you'd have to tier up your cards, which is a very tedious process, and that will just end up with you getting a single reveal. It's almost like you're trying to tier up an item, but once you tier it up, you can't cube it anymore. So you just have the reveal, and then if that went shitty, then all of your efforts were kind of wasted.
So is it realistic to even go for epics?
No, it's not really realistic to go for epics, no. So if you want to go for some epics, the best way to do that is by just getting a lot of cards and then extracting them and then buying the booster pack from the shop that has a decent rate of getting an epic. You could do that on a lot of different characters, because every character can buy a booster pack, one booster pack per day. But that would be like a more efficient way of going for epics rather than tiering up your existing cards, at least for right now. If there would be a thing like getting red cards and stuff, then you could consider boosting up even to unique and trying to make like a singular unique and then rolling that one with red cards. Red cards are essentially like the cubes for familiars, but they only exist in non-reboot for money right now, so we don't have access to them whatsoever. We got like a pack of 5 one time as like a compensation for the system being broken, basically. But other than that, I keep trying to push our community manager to keep, trying to get them to add them, because without it, it's kind of a dead system. It's a very baseline system. It's just like, oh, get a bunch of cards, get some ID, maybe a little bit of drop rate, maybe a little bit of minor healing for bosses, and that's really all you can get. And it's very you can get, so to unlock the extra badges, unlocking one badge gives you access to the second slot of the familiar, which is definitely something you want to do. But to get to the third slot, you have to unlock 10 badges, which is a lot of work. So I would just do just one badge, so you can get to 2 familiars. And then, since ID is a factor for you, getting 2 familiars with 15% ID, that would be very good, right? So those are counted as 2 individual sources, but 2 sources of 15% would be great. So if you end up at 66, 15% of 34 is, Jesus, big math, 3.4, 1.7, 5.1. So that's like 5% extra, right? Almost 2 times. So we get you almost to like 70, 76, 75 probably. So that we're getting like a lot closer with that. So the monster is probably the easiest to get a lot of familiar cards is the Forsaken Excavation Site 2 with the stone mask guys.
Yep, someone in your chat actually helped me out with that.
Yeah, those probably drop. So those drop both of the cards, the common and the rare ones. There's a lot of monsters on the map that you can kill, which is also a good factor in getting a lot of cards. So I don't know. Oh, we haven't talked about like your setup. Are you just doing like everything off of one computer?
Yes, but I have the possibility of using a second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
Is
for things like that,
like Kana or something.
Yeah, like if you're trying to, so what you could do on a Kana is easy to level, easy to get to the higher areas where you would want to Kishin yourself and has access to Kishin, and because it's also easier to train by itself, you can get to a decent level, or you can get to the point more easily where you're a higher level and where you can kill a few bosses, get the reward points, and maybe even be able to buy totems as well. So you could use totems on that account to like basically have 100% uptime Kishin and allow you to perhaps even double dip on totems on your main. if you have access to that. So
Right.
that could be the value that you add to your account. And also if you're trying to be like, you're trying to kind of farm for some familiars, you can just, Kishin and then you kill. If Kishin runs out, you just kind of chill around in the map, you hop around a little bit. But that's like a little bit lower pressure than actually trying to do like a 2-hour session when you're on full coupons and stuff. So that could allow you to slowly build that up and get some of those, because you're probably able to kill an FES2 very efficiently now, because you're an Adele, monsters are very close. I mean, you press like ruin and I think like 40 of them die, because that skill just perfectly kills the entire map pretty much.
Now, Kishin was nerfed from when I used to play, I think.
Yeah, so it has 50% uptime basic. The uptime can go up as you proc the Night Ghost Guide, which is a skill that just can proc if you hit a monster with one of the skills that originates from you. So not from a summon and not while you're jump attacking. But if you have either the Yosuzume, the flying charms, or you have Circle of Suppression, where you like push back and there's like attacks coming from your for monsters that are standing close to you, right? That circle around you, or where you're just using your regular attacks like Shikigami Haunting or like Exorcist Charm, and you're hitting monsters with that, and the monster doesn't die immediately. There's a chance that you give them a Night Ghost Guide debuff. It's like a faceless ghost kind of. It looks like Kishin's face, basically, like hovering over them. Whenever that triggers, the uptime of Kishin, if it's currently on, will be extended. So depending on where you put your Kana and, if you can hit things with it, you might get the uptime a little bit higher. But in like FES2, unless your Kana is a pretty high level, it's a little bit risky because those monsters do deal a decent amount of damage. But yeah, if you feel like messing with Autopod and putting it somewhere where it can be hit and just having the Kana being like knocked around the map with Circle of Oppression on, with Yosuzume at least leveled up a little bit, as long as she's not too strong, it doesn't one-shot them, but damages them, then you will proc some Night Ghost Guides, and that'll help you definitely get more than 50% uptime. It can very quickly get you to like 75% uptime, which is way more reliable, of course, than just half the time the monsters feel like they're just gone from the map. So that is definitely something to consider. If you're planning on playing multiple different characters, I usually find that getting them drop rate and just focusing more on the totems drop rate and Mesoptane, right? Seems to kind of more organically already fund your account, that you don't really need like a Kana farmer on your main account. But having Kana on a secondary is always nice, for a little bit of help with Legion, so you can make sure that you can use all of your totems on your characters that you're trying to do like the higher leveling with, and that on the lower level characters you can just, use the Kishin instead.
Gotcha.
Passive hyper skills, so we already talked about that. Level 40 boost nodes, we will talk about that once we get into the Matrix. Character specific IED skills or boss debuffs, so we talked about that as well, right?
Yep.
Event buffs, this is just for completion titles. Guild skills if it leveled, and there are potions that give you ID as well. You might have seen them before if you did Root Abyss. Sometimes they sell like those. There's like a red potion that gives you damage, a white potion that gives you ID, I think.
Yep.
If you ever see those can be useful, especially in the beginning if you're trying to get to that point where you can kill those bosses a little bit faster. I think they go up to 20%, right? The potions.
Not sure.
So that is already. I might have one on me. No. Oh, I would have them in storage. But yeah, even like that early on, when you're trying to get, when like a source of 10% or 15% is already pretty useful. If you can get a potion, you'll probably use buff freezers in the beginning, right? If you're going to use a potion that can give you 20% on top of everything. Blue star potion. Yeah, it's 20% IED in Root Abyss, and then the sparkling ones also work outside, but the regular ones. The gold potion gives you 20 weapon and magic attack. But I think, you want to be an alchemist. Are you already an alchemist?
I am training my professions right now.
But you like unlocked all of them?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I think you can use 2 of these at a time. So you could technically get 20 boss, 20 IED. just from if you have those. Again, that's more of a thing if you're like trying to brute force your way through it, or if you're solo progressing and you're and you really need them. But yeah, those regular ones, those non-sparkling ones, only work in Rudibus anyway. So if you have them, might as well use them. Yeah, so those are like the main sources. So the spiders, the familiars is something that will come in handy a lot. And that might be necessary for like the final part to get you like 80, to get you from like high 80s to low 90s. But it's not necessarily something you have to start doing like right now, unless you feel like it or you have the time for it. But you want to definitely look at the other sources that are more accessible first. So I think one of the things that would be useful is probably to already check how much you would have if you move the attack into the IED, because I'm pretty sure that would go at very low cost from your kill speed on normal monsters, and will help your bossing more, right? So it's 12, right, that you could change up?
Something like that, yeah.
And you were at 66 now?
Let me see, I'll move them over right now.
66, 34, missing 12, 2, so that should be 4% extra, so should I get you to 70, roughly? And after that, we should probably talk about hyperstats.
It gets me roughly to... So now I'm at 13% IED.
Mm-hmm.
And in my stat menu, I'm now at 75%.
75, nice. Is that with your stacks on?
No.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think we're gonna... Okay, I think we'll get close to that without needing the ID familiars for now, but you definitely do want to get them later. So the other thing that we probably want to do is look at your hyperstats. Do you still have them the same as in the screenshots?
Yes, I do.
So the one thing that we typically only do later is put stats into... do you have any in weapon and magic attack?
I do.
Okay, so weapon and magic attack and strength, very similarly to the Legion, is something you put points in when you have leftovers, because weapon and magic attack will get diminishing returns as you get way more weapon attack, and the strength one is a final strength boost, similar to how your Legion member bonuses are a final boost, so they don't get multiplied by percentage. So that's why those are, in terms of how much damage they give you, way less efficient than the crit rate, damage, IED damage, and boss damage. So we want to definitely focus on those more and leave the strength and the weapon attack out until later, and just use leftover points to fill those out. Or when you already have the other hyperstats at level 10, and adding from level 10 to 11 costs something like 50 or 60 or 70 points, where at that point you can basically get like level 6 or level 7 attack for free, rather than like 1% extra damage, which at that point then that becomes more efficient. But until you get to that point, like we talked about before, like making the chunk of IED bigger is probably going to be more important for you now. But we also want to look at getting your critical rate. So your critical rate is at 100 when you're buffed now, right?
Yeah, I just reset my skills and I can get it to 100 with 5 points in it, so...
Okay, that's good, okay. So you have like nothing and everything in level 5 crit rate now?
Yep.
Okay. And because you did get that, that's probably fine, because we do also have decent sharp eyes, right?
I do not.
Well, I mean like
really
as a
touched.
yeah, no, I see your matrix. I see we have some probably some work to do there, but like one thing that you will get later is that you also have decent sharp eyes, so that gives you 10% critical rate and 8% critical damage. So that's something to keep in the back of your mind. As so if you check exclamation mark crit, that also has a link to like all of the sources of critical rate and critical damage, and that's where you will also see where's decent sharp eyes. I guess I can put the information here. Be like 10% crit rate. that is a valuable source, but that mainly comes into play once you have more slots in your matrix unlocked, right? In the beginning, it's very important to get your base skills and to get your boost nodes in there. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay, so you're at 100% critical rate when you're buffed. And what is your ID looking like right now? Is it like 70 or below?
It is at, yeah, like 70.
Yeah, okay. So typically the way that I distribute hyperstats is like first you take like all the important ones to 5 and then you go from there. Then you see if you need more and then you take them up to 8 and then you keep them there. So for critical rate, what does it mean needing it? It means trying to get up to 100% functional, right? Once you're there, you stop needing that one and you focus on the other ones. So now you can definitely take your critical damage, your ignored defense, your damage, and your boss damage all to 5. And then we look at how many points we have left.
So you said crit rate, ignore defense and damage, and boss damage?
Great. So critical rate, critical damage, ignore defense, damage, and boss. Yeah, like basically those 5. They were like all after each other. Yeah. The other one that can be important is arcane power, but that mainly comes into play once you do arcane power bosses, or when your mobbing is starting to stagnate. Because reaching, do you know about the arcane power multiplier?
Yeah, you need like 1.5 for it to be effective, right?
Yeah, so there's a 1.1 multiplier, a 1.3, and a 1.5, depending on if you're 10, 30, or 50% over the requirement of the map. So for mobbing, it could mean that adding a little bit into arcane power could actually increase your final damage by a lot, which will help you kill monsters faster, which helps you level faster, which gets you stronger faster. Because not only do you just get more stat, in the beginning it's very important to level because you get access to more, I was going to say Legion Grid, but you get access to more matrix slots, and you get access to more hyperstats that are quite important in the beginning. So I don't know, what map are you training in right now? Like, what is the requirement of arcane power there?
I've not been training, so don't know.
Okay, so if you would train, let's look at the hypothetical. Because you probably would need a little bit more levels to be able to sort CRA, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because oh, another one. Frank is ranked. Thank you for the resub, my dude. Welcome back. So you would probably train at Reverse City, right? Because I heard that's really good. But this map is a little bit too high. Well, you could probably do this map if you get to one. Could you get to 150 without points into arcane power? Oh no, you have 125 now.
That's with points in arcane power, I think.
Yeah, how many is that? How many do you have in? Did you have in there? At least one, but probably
I'm
like
at 100
3.
arcane power right now.
So you had 5 in there. Okay. Are you in a guild right now?
I am.
Okay, so you're getting the 30 from the guild?
Yep.
Okay, so you have 70 by yourself.
No, that's 130 by myself. My bad. Actually, let me check. I can just run into a map to check, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
Yeah, because otherwise that would mean that you have a level 2 and a level 1 symbol, which you don't have.
I'm at 100.
Does your guild have it leveled up?
It does. Yeah, so I'm at 70 by myself.
Okay. So wait, so you only have like a level. Oh no, wait, because you only have one area unlocked. My bad. So you have like a level 5 finishing journey. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Just doing the there's a daily party quest for that, right?
Yeah, yeah. So there's a little bit of a party quest, and there's like the kill and gather, which you can also do in a party, but most people do solo, of course. Yeah, there's those 2 sources for now that can give you up to 14 symbols a day together. 6 from the PQ, 8 from the kill quests. Have you done it before, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so at 14, so the reason that I don't like to add arcane power points in super early is because you can still level very quickly, unlock new areas very quickly, and level up your symbols very quickly, as long as you keep doing your dailies. And that's basically just free hyperstat points if you focus on that. If you're at 100, are you close to level 6?
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah. So if you do go, if you do train, I would say this map is really good. It's called Versity Hidden Research Train. So it does have a requirement of 100. And the monsters are 210, but you're pretty close in level. And so if you can get to 110 arcane power, then you'll hit that extra 10%. So you'll take less damage and you'll deal 10% more final damage already. So I think you should be good to train there at that point. So I don't think we should put any points necessarily into... You could put like 4 points in maybe, because that'll give you extra 20, right? So that'll give you 130, that'll give you the 30% boost. Yeah, probably put like 4 points in, because 4 points is really cheap, right? It's 1, 2, 4, 8. So it's 15 points only, 15 hyperstat points. You'll probably have that much left in the end anyway. So I think it's fine to put like 4 points in. I never put like an uneven point in, because then you end up like 125 arcane power. And in the beginning, the arcane power requirements are very small. So just 5 extra tends to not do anything extra for your damage output. Which goes against the 5 rule, I guess. Okay, so do you have now arcane power at 4, critical rate at 5, and then critical damage, ignore defense damage, and boss damage all at 5?
Yep.
Okay, so how many points do you have left now?
253.
253. Okay. So now we go for the priorities to 8, right? So critical rate no longer priority because you already have 100. Ignore defense is what we're working on now, right? So that one's a priority. So get that one to 8.
All right.
And 5 to 8 costs 1, 2, 4, 8, 10. So it's 15, 20, 25. So that costs you 60. So you have 193 left?
Yep.
Okay, so that means you can get 3 others also to 8, and then you'll have 13 left.
Quick maths.
Yeah, how much ID does that put you on? Are you like at 78 now or something?
73.
73, okay.
I think I did have a buff going earlier, so.
Yeah, that might have been it. Yeah, it might have been your self stacks, right?
I think I had my guild buff running.
Okay. What level is that one?
It's at level 8.
Okay. Okay, so it has level 8, so 16%, 16-minute uptime, and then missing 14, so like 44-minute downtime or something?
Yeah. 88-minute downtime.
Oh, doubles. Yeah. 88. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay, but you're still at 73. And you moved your hyperstat points, right? So if you get 14, 80, 40, 77, 20, 23, 40, that'd be 10. That'll get 80. 80. Yeah, it's probably safe to get your... Yeah, I'll probably get just the other 3 also all to 8. The boss damage, and a critical damage. That'd be 60, so 180, so I have 13 points left. So then you can put 1, 2, 4, 8. No, that won't be enough. We could just put the rest in attack and then a little bit in strength. Or you could save them. Your next level up would be 15, 20, 25. To go from 8 to 9 is 30 points, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so you could leave your if you think you're going to be leveling like relatively quickly, you could save your points up now until you get to like 30, right? And then level up your ID again. Or you can put your points into attack now until you can't level up attack anymore, and then put the rest in strength until you can't level up strength anymore.
I'm just gonna throw them in attack and strength for now.
Yep. Because your leveling focus is still primarily on the Legion, right?
Correct.
Yep. Makes sense. Okay, so that leaves us with like 74 IED.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So that 19% doesn't seem huge, but like we talked about, right? The 200% defense vellum. So instead of dealing 10% of your damage with the 74, which if your self buff is 3% per stack, correct?
I think so. Let me check.
So that would be a 9% if you 3 stack on 74, missing 26. 9% of 26 is 1.8. 0.
It says 5% per stack with Resonance Rush, right?
Yeah, Resonance Rush, yeah. Wait, is it 5?
Yes.
Jesus, that's OP. Wait, so it goes up to 15?
It does, yes.
Damn, okay. 15 of... Oh, the 3% I was thinking about was the was the mages. Those gives you 3% damage and 3% IED per stack. So that gives, what, 5% final damage and 5% IED per stack, up to 15 each. So 74, 26 missing, 15%, 26, 1.3, so 3.9. So that will get you to 78 already. So from, 78, so that's 22, 44, so you deal 56% of your damage. Yeah, so you're probably doing about 5 times your damage now on Vellum compared to before we started.
Right.
So that's already quite nice. Okay. We're probably not going to mess with the IED. Sorry, with your inner ability, I mean, your IA. Because you're not going to go super far. And it can get quite expensive. And you already have 21 attack, so I'm feeling okay about that one for now. Because there's no IED to get there. There's a small chance of getting boss damage, but... yeah, that can be expensive, so... we'll leave that one alone for now. Okay, and then the one very important thing that we have to establish is the matrix. So, are you, like, complete rookie here? Like, what level? 1 to 10? 10 being, like, the god matrix knowledge master?
Probably like a 2.
A 2, okay. So, you have matrix points. Do you know what those are? What those do?
Nope.
So, every level past 200, you will get one. And a matrix point will allow you to level up a slot in your matrix. So, if you click slot enhancement, it'll show you your slots and what level they are right now. And it'll let you level them up if you want to. So, if you level up a slot, basically what it does is whatever skill node is equipped in that slot will get the boost of the levels of the slot. So it's advised to just level up one slot at a time, get it to level 5, which is the highest level, and then move on to the next one, basically.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Leveling up of skills generally, or leveling up of nodes generally goes in the order of boost nodes first, then skill nodes that have an important effect increase when they are leveled, and then all the other skill nodes, and then last priority is decent skill nodes. So, do you know about the difference about boost nodes, skill nodes, what they do, what their purposes are?
Yeah, skill nodes just unlocks you the skill, and boost nodes are the ones that are like the triple.
Yeah, so they empower the already existing skills, right? So the skill nodes can be very important because they can give you access to like incredible powers, typically all with longer cooldowns. And the boost nodes are very useful because those give you access to empowering your existing skills that have already 100% uptime, your existing attacking skills. I mean, they can have a little bit of cooldown, of course, but a lot of them are spammable. So if you can increase those, you're increasing your baseline of damage output. And what they increase your damage by final damage, right? And final damage is the best form of damage increase that we want because it basically looks at, okay, All calculations done. How much damage would you deal? 1 million? Okay, well, here's 100% final damage. Now you deal 2 million. It just doubles whatever would come out at the end of the calculation. So final damage is like, and it's also multiplicative with sources of final damage because of it being a final damage multiplier. So whatever other multiplier comes in, always work multiplicatively with each other because it has to multiply the final damage output. So when it comes to boost nodes, you can boost any pre-existing skill up to 60 levels. What that means practically is that you'll typically want every important skill that you want to boost in 2 separate nodes, because boost nodes and skill nodes can go up to a max level of 25 by themselves. And they can be equipped in level 5 upgraded slots, making them individually max level 30. You have it in 2 nodes. That's where you get your 60.
Gotcha.
So what you're looking for is tri-nodes, what you've heard circulating before. So when you're opening nodes, you're looking for what are the 3 skills in this node? Do I need all these 3 skills? If you want to know for sure if which ones are the ones that you need, you can check !V matrix. That has for all of the classes in the game which are the skills that you're looking for to boost with your boost nodes. Some of those are very straightforward. Especially the later classes have like bundled skills in singular lines of boost nodes. So just one line of a boost node already boosts 2 separate skills, which makes it very easy to boost like pretty much everything you need. Older classes might have much more difficult setups or might only need to boost a few skills, because just because you get into level 200 and you open up your matrix doesn't mean you know what skills you're going to be needing to train at level 255 maps, right? So sometimes it's good to look at that to make sure you have some kind of game plan going into the whole system. So for Adele, I've done Adele specifically, so I know for Adele what you're looking for. So you're looking for the Rain of Destruction, that big orange one that you put down, does damage over time, very nice. Cleave, your main attack, and Hunting Decree, because those are the swords flying around. That's typically the first tri-node people go for. But you look for 2 of those tri-nodes, right? So your limitations are that the top skill, if you hover over a node, whichever skill you see mentioned first, that's considered your top skill, and that's like the main, what it's about. So if you want to level up your nodes, you need to right-click them, and you can click Enhance, and then it'll look at your collection of nodes and see if you have any other nodes that have the same top skill. And then you'll be able to use that other node to level up your existing node. And that's how you get experience on the node, and that's how you level it up and get it to 25 eventually.
You right-click it, you said?
Yeah, so you have to talk to a node master. So not just opening your matrix in your skill window, but you have to talk to a node master.
Okay.
That's where you can enhance and disassemble nodes that you don't need, etc. And you can also craft nodes there. Oh yeah, yes. Did you apply the matrix points already?
I have not, no.
So if you open up your yeah, because there's like 2 screens for your matrix, right? And one allows you to do certain things, and the other one allows you to do certain other things. So if you open the matrix up through your skill window, there's a button on the right called Slot Enhancement. That's just above the matrix point. So if you click Slot Enhancement, you can see the levels. And then you can click on any slot you want to level up, and then click OK, and it'll level it up, and you'll see the border of the skill slot change. It'll go to like.
So should I just like go down the line, getting them to 5?
Yeah, well, typically people just start at the top left, and it just go one at a time, just get them to 5, and then go to the next one. But you can literally level whichever slot up you want. It's not like super, it's not important which one it is. But I think it's more important to level an individual one to level 5 and then move over to the next one, specifically in the beginning, because in the beginning, your boost nodes are going to level very slowly, and getting those free 5 levels by putting your boost node in there is going to give you 10% final damage, because every level in a boost node gives you 2% final damage for the skills in that boost node. So using these matrix points will just give you 10% final damage right now on all the skills in the boost node you put in there, which is huge, right, in the beginning. Because it's just all your damage multiplied by a factor of 1.1. That together with the IED, that together with all the other things we're going to work on, is going to work in unison to give you a lot of extra damage. So this goes up to level 60 with 2% per level, so that goes up to plus 120% final damage. So if you usually would dealing 10 million, after the max boost node, you're going to deal 22 million.
Gotcha.
So that's why This is incredibly important. And yeah, so you have the speed infusion. That's good. You want to get your attack speed up, not so much because of attacks per second, but more because it speeds up your animations, which allows you to, for the classes that it works for. But it speeds up your animations so that they're shorter, so you can move around more easily. You can move more dynamically through the map, and when you're bossing, you can move out of the way of attacks faster and perhaps die less, which is very useful. Then besides that, usually as Adele, I don't use the third, at least I think it's the third V, the one with the wings. I think it's the least impactful for boss damage out of the three, and I tend to replace that one with the other tri-node or boost node, but it depends on your situation. So let's say that you can either use that skill or you can use a level 1 boost node. Well, then you probably want to use the skill, right? Because it probably increases your overall damage more than like 2% final damage does on a little boost node. But what if the boost node is level 5, or you have a higher slot than you could put it into, and it gives you like 10% or 14% final damage? Then it starts getting a little bit... then I would probably go for the boost node instead, because that one boosts skills that you always have, and the other skill has a decent downtime, right? So that's kind of how you want to look at your slots, especially in the beginning when you're limited on how many slots you have to put skills into. A singular boost node is not that important. A leveled up boost node is way more important. A singular skill node is more important than a low-level boost node, but maybe not as important, depending on what skill it is, than a high-level boost node. So it's like a case-by-case basis. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you recommend buying the 2 slots?
Typically in the beginning, I don't, because you level up pretty quickly. And then when you, like, the closer you're to leveling, I would just like power out the levels. And then you get the slots anyway, because if you buy them preemptively and then you level up, then you basically unlock the slots you've already bought, so you don't get anything new. So I would do it if you're like on your 4th or 5th character and you already have like, oh, I'm going to go on my new character, I'm going to open 500 nodes, and I'm going to open up those slots immediately so I can like throw in some level 11 boost nodes and immediately be super strong and power level my way through. Because in the beginning, those slots aren't very expensive, so you can just do that. But in general, if you're like more in the beginning, your first or your second character, I wouldn't rely on them too much. You could in the beginning because they're cheap, but you'll pretty quickly find that they can start getting pretty expensive. They could be like 200, 300, 500 mil per slot.
Oh, do you have to repurchase them?
So every 5 levels, you unlock 1 extra slot, and you can always unlock up to 2 more than you already have. But let's say you bought this next slot now, right? That means you will get 1 unlocked, and then 1 will still be gray and locked. Once you get to the next multiple of 5, so you get to level 210, what will happen is the one that you already unlocked will become unlocked by the game, but you already have it, so nothing changes there. And you'll just be able to unlock 1 extra, so you'll get another gray lock on the end. So if you want to get an extra one at 210, you'll have to buy another one again.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it depends on how close you are to leveling. If you're level 209, that would never unlock it. You just level it up. But also, the closer you are, the cheaper it is to unlock, so you might still do it. So you can always just click it and see how much it is and see if it's worth it to you. If it's like 30 mil, you'd be like, well, I mean, that's nothing, right? That's like killing 1 boss and selling 1 crystal. But once it's like 200, 300, 500, you can be like, I think at my level, this character, so I'm 220. I have 1 extra unlocked. Yeah, I already have the 225 one unlocked. If I want to buy this one, it's 550 mil to unlock the level 231. That's a little steep. It's not the end of the world, but it's a little steep. I think I'm at level 265 character if I want to unlock the next one. I'm 264 now, so that's probably not too expensive. But if I want to unlock the 270 and 275 ones, it's probably in the billions at that point. So, just click it, see how much it is, and see if you want to do it or not. So the main thing we're aiming for now is 2 sets of tri-nodes for you. I don't know if you checked the matrix command.
I did.
Yeah, so you know which ones we're looking for, right? So the Reign of Destruction, Cleave, Hunting Decree is what we'll prioritize. I don't think you have any node that has specifically those 3, right?
I do not, no.
So that's fine. That's pretty normal in the beginning. So that means that you probably keep the exact same setup that you have now, right? Because the one you have equipped has Rain of Destruction and has Cleave, but it'd probably be a good idea to put that node into the level 5 slot by dragging it, switching it, because then way you just gain 10% extra final damage to at least Cleave and your Rain of Destruction. So at the beginning, you're just going to be opening a bunch of nodes, and if you have any nodes that has the top node of one of those 6 skills, you always save those, because they'll, even if you don't have a perfect tri node, you will use them to enhance the perfect tri node that you will eventually get. And that also means that if you have skills that start with a skill that you don't want to have in any tri nodes, you can go into the node master and disenchant them.
So if it has one of the 6 skills at the top, I keep it to enhance.
Yes, exactly. It'll be like enhancement. It'll be free experience for later for your other skills. So if you talk to the node master and you enter your PIC, because this game is great. Yeah, so you can go to disassemble nodes on the right side. And that'll allow you to click on nodes that you don't want to keep. So that for you, for now, that will just be boost nodes that have a top skill that you're never going to level up. So there's like I don't even know what this is called. Like the green stuff. And like there's is that the second job attacking skill, I think. Yeah. So those you can just you can click and you can extract, and that'll give you 10 node shards per extraction. And then with those node shards, when you get them, you can go to node crafting, and then you can make your own nodes, basically.
Gotcha.
So in the beginning, you won't be making anything until you get the tri nodes ready, and then once you have the tri nodes, then you can start making the boost nodes that will level up those tri nodes. And that's because when you can make boost nodes, and when you make boost nodes, you can choose what the top skill is going to be, but the other 2 are going to be random. So okay. Yeah, let's say that you get, for example, you do find one that starts with Rain of Destruction and also has Cleave and Hunting Decree in the second or third line, with, whatever they are, that doesn't matter. Then you can go to node crafting and just make Rain of Destruction ones, and then go back, right-click, enhance, and then throw them on there to level up your existing node. Whatever the second and the third line are of the other node that you use to enhance the primary one doesn't matter. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So you will want to make sure that you level up your nodes kind of evenly, because they do need more experience to level up the higher they get. But the boost they get is the same. It's always the 2%. So you do want to kind of evenly distribute it between the boost nodes that you have. And if you level more, you'll start equipping the other 2 sets of tri nodes as well. But those won't be as important to level up as Cleave, Hunting Degree, Rain of Destruction. That's where your most damage is going to come from. And since we're stopping at probably like level 215 to 220, right? Because we're just doing the solo CRA and maybe Party Lotus and Damien, you don't want to go too overboard, and you probably want to start saving up some nodes as well to be able to throw into the next character that you want to train. So you don't want to go too hard.
Gotcha.
Does that?
So
yeah.
Under the file, the spreadsheet that you have.
Yeah. Well, which one? I have a
so
lot.
My perfect trios are.
Yes.
I guess I don't understand what my perfect trios are still.
Yeah, so it's like a big. They have big names. So Rain of Destruction is called Rain of Destruction Plummet. That's what I talked about. Where in certain sometimes there are 2 skills that are in one line of one skill. So if you hover over your tri node that you have equipped right now, you'll see that it says Rain of Destruction Plummet, right? Oh,
okay.
Yeah, but it'll have the icon of just Rain of Destruction, but it also boosts your Plummet skill, which is the one that makes you like dash down. So this is just for completion's sake. But yeah, so Hunting Decree and Grave Proclamation are also together, but it's just going to look like Hunting Decree. It's just going to look like the floaty swords.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so first trio will have Cleave, Hunting Decree, and Grain of Destruction. Just end those 3 in any order. And then you'll have to get another trio that has the same 3 skills, but in a different order. I maybe didn't mention that specifically, but you can also, you can only equip a node with the same top skill one at a time. So you can't have like Rain of Destruction with Cleave and Hunting Decree, and another Rain of Destruction with Hunting Decree and Cleave. Like you can't equip both of those at the same time. You'll have to have one that starts with Cleave or with Hunting Decree. So that's why in the beginning you want to open a bunch of nodes so that you can get like, you can get 2 of the one, 2 of the other, or if you have enough slots, just have 4 total nodes. And then once you have your tri-nodes, you'll know which 2 skills out of those 6 won't be top skills, and then you can start extracting those as well.
So what's my best way of getting nodes?
You get like 3 extra, I think, for doing your Vanishing Journey twice a week, right? That's one. The other one is just killing and training and just killing monsters around in Vanishing Journey. They can all drop nodes. And then the third best thing is just events, right? We had the Unending Night before, but of course, you know, you couldn't always have access to that. Legion was also very important. But event stores typically have nodes that you can buy from them. But that's pretty much it. It's just like killing monsters.
Gotcha.
That's why some people go for the farming Kana, right? Because it's not only just making money, but it's also farming nodes. Once you get to enough kill speed on the Kana, you can start like siphoning off nodes onto your other characters that you want to play. But yeah, it's like a rough start, but it's a lot of final damage, and it's a lot of damage that comes from that. So once you get rolling with that, you'll really start feeling your damage going up a lot.
Cool.
Yeah, I guess that gets us through all the systems. Let's see. Oh no, not yet. Well, that gets us through this. How are you with transfer hammering and transposing? Do you know about these and how they were used?
Yeah. Transfer hammer, I understand. Transposing is where you just is that where you combine them and like fuse them?
No, so transposing is a similar system to transfer hammer, but it works with Sweetwater items. And it has some extra properties and some different rules of the limitations of the equips and which stats get transferred. But I have a video on it, so you can always check the video to get the details. But it's something that only comes into play later in the game. You wouldn't.
Right. Yeah, I do know about that.
Yeah, you don't have to engage with it yet. But yeah, it's used for like rare drops to min-max your stats on endgame gear, basically. So it's yeah, it's not something to exactly be worrying about too quickly now. I guess the only other main thing is like flames and flame scores. Are you kind of up to date on that? How that works?
Yep.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. You've seen the guide and the calculator and stuff.
I have. Yep.
Yes, good. All right, I like it when people do their research. All right, let's go into the equip stuff then, because you don't have that much more time, right?
Correct.
Okay. So the main things we look at is weapon, secondary, and emblem, right? That's where the boss damage, IED, and the percentage attack comes from. So that's going to be the things that are focused on the most. So your Knight's emblem has 9 attack, 9 strength, which considering all the other things, you have a 10% attack. Nice flame on the Sweetwater weapon, which is not self-evident. because you know about flame advantage and not, right? So getting that kind of flame on a...
I do.
Yeah. Getting that kind of flame on a weapon is not easy typically. Okay, so you got mostly penciler stuff here, but you have 9%, 6%. Okay. Oh, nice.
So gear-wise, my next goal is to upgrade to CRA gear, and...
Pretty much, yeah. Looks like it.
Okay.
Because it looks like with the extra IED coming in, the one thing I think we can do to get you there to that level, to get you that last boost of IED, is going to be to rank up. And because how much money do you have now? Like how much you make on a weekly basis, roughly? You do like Maple to Ursus?
I do. Yeah, I do those most days.
So it's like 150. So that's like 1 bill a week. Any other incomes?
No, just that.
Okay. Because I would say tiering up and going for like a chunk of IED, hopefully a chunk of IED with some attack on your emblem is probably going to be the next thing, right? When upgrading, you look for where can you make the most gains, but also which items are going to stay with you the longest so you can get the value out of it over a long period of time. And emblem is something that's going to stick with you forever, and that has access to IED and attack, so that's probably going to be our next priority to...
Is that the only one that has access to IED and attack?
So your secondary and your weapon also do, but they also have access to boss damage. So that's why you want to prioritize boss damage and attack on those two, and you want to prioritize ID and attack on the emblem.
Okay.
Yeah, because like one chunk of because what we end up saying, you end up at like 78%, right? And you could get a line of 40% IED on your emblem, which would take you from 78 to I think 86 or maybe even 87, and then you're looking really close to that goal of 90% functional, right? Because we're adding some more indivisible lines, definitely the hyperstats and the boss debuff. But the boss debuff is a little wonky, right? Because it doesn't have that 100%. But once you add the luminous link, oh wait, you added the luminous link, right?
Yep.
Yeah, once you add like one or two familiars with the 15% lines, you'll be getting really close to that 90%.
Gotcha.
And then you can start just purely focusing on the rest of your gear. And once you get the CRA, you can just start working on upgrading the stats on that and all that stuff. But you've already, from what I could tell, occulted quite hard on your current gear. So you're already, yeah, that's already good gear that you have now. You want like the full penciler route. Yeah, so yeah, I would tier up the emblem. Try to go for legendary. Try to go for a 40% line. Maybe even not with attack for now. If you hit like a 40%, or if you hit a 30% line with some attack, you can just hold on to that for now. Don't go like super overboard, right? Because you do want to save that money to upgrade your CRA once you do get it. Your flames in general.
Should I push it to legendary?
Yeah, push it to legendary. I would, unless if you use cubes to try to push it and you end up hitting something really nice on unique, because you can get 30% lines on unique, right?
Yeah.
If you end up with like 30% IED and 6% or something and it stays unique, then you could keep that as well and just hold on to that for now. The other things, Monster Parker Metal is a thing, but I don't know if you want to work on that if you're not planning on going super far in this character anyway.
What does it give? I'll consider if it's worth it.
I give 7 all stats and 10% IED. So it's one of the sources of IED that doesn't go at the expense of other things.
I'll consider it.
Yeah. But you need to clear 77 times every single day of every day of the week. For the weekly?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you could just do 77 times one day and then just always do CRA on that day and wear it. Because then it gives you 10% IED as well, but only on that day. You could do like Friday or something, because Wednesday and Thursday typically are maintenance and server and like patch days. So if you focus on, a Friday or Saturday or Sunday or something, then yeah, that could be something to do. For the badge, you want the Crystal Ventus badge from Magnus. I don't know if you've unlocked normal hard Magnus and done those pre-quests yet.
Yep.
Yep, that's just, you just gotta wait until it drops, I guess, but normal should have like an okay drop rate for it. You already have the shoulder, so that'll help you with the set bonus, because now you're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, you're at 8 bonus. Yeah, so either adding the pocket item or the badge will get you to the 9 set bonus, so that should give you 10% extra boss damage, I believe.
It does, yep.
Yep. And a 15 stat 10 attack, so that would be quite nice. And then if you get both, of course, if you get both the cup and the badge, that would mean that you can move out of one of the items, which in this situation, the best thing to move out of would be the shoulder and replace it with your Hayato shoulder, because then you can get a set bonus with your Kana treasure ring. And it wouldn't go at the expense, you wouldn't lose any stats. I think you would actually gain some stats. So that could be a good placeholder there. The next thing, so then you're going to be working on your CRA stuff, right? That's going to keep you monetarily busy for quite a while. The next thing after that would be either to work on your current secondary. Well, I guess if you can kill CRA there at that point, you would need to work on that, right? You would probably want to save your extra money. Because I think everything has the 9% strength that you want. Yeah, upgrade-wise, like your flames are really solid as well, like across the board. That's already a really good foundation. It's mainly just going to be practicing the bosses, learning the strength and the weaknesses of your character. Yeah, we can go a little bit I mean, honestly, unless you feel like equip-wise you need some more advice, but I
No,
think,
I think I'm cool with that.
yeah, I think you're good. I mean, if you have a little bit of time, we can go into the bosses a little bit for the mechanics, or
No, I'm sure I could just watch a video on that.
yeah, I have the runs with my Adele done. I think all three, all four, I think. So you can
Yeah,
see
you did.
specifically from the Adele perspective.
Yep.
Um, yeah, no, like, yeah, there weren't too many gaps in your knowledge to begin with, but yeah, like your gear is very impressive for your level, for like your first character. So it seems like you have your priorities in order. It's just like dotting the I's and crossing the T's with stuff like redistributing points, priorities, and your hyperstats in your legion, and looking at your IED as like a very important source. And I guess your matrix, but I mean, if it's your first character and you just started, like Matrix is it's quite overwhelming.
Yeah.
All of the jobs
Yeah.
before this is just like, here are all your skills, you get to level everything, have fun. And then Matrix is like, okay, shit gets real. Like, yeah, it's very important without really, I guess, conveying in the beginning how important it is. But I hope that with my explanation, you can see how much it can make your life a lot easier.
Yep. I guess my last question
Yeah.
is hyper skill.
Yes.
Where I should put those, because I know if Reign of Destruction is going to be one of my nodes that I'm using, wouldn't I want the extra 4 seconds on it?
Yes, yes, you would. So it's mainly if you're mobbing, you can just put it somewhere for a while, and it'll just kill monsters there, while you just go off and do your thing in another part of the map. So the longer it lasts there, the more uptime you have on it, right? Because the cooldown stays the same. So that has value there, and it also has value when you're bursting, because typically you want to use your bind and then burst the boss down. But if you put the Rain of Destruction down, you see the boss somewhere, Rain of Destruction, then bind, it takes the full brunt of the Rain of Destruction and it stands in there. I'll see which ones I have. I don't know if this one is 100% important, but you definitely want to get the Rain of Destruction. Yeah. Which ones do you have now? Do you have like the top 3 done?
I have the top 3, Reign of Destruction, and Aether Bloom.
Okay, that's exactly the same that I have.
I read a lot of people were using the Resonance Rush one, but it just doesn't seem useful to me.
The Resonance Rush one. Oh, I had that one in the beginning for training. Because you're like dashing between crystals a lot, and it just helps you keep the swords up a lot more. But the hunting decree is gonna get higher uptime, so you don't have to spam them as much. So later, that's gonna get even less value. But for training, I used it for a while, and I thought it was pretty useful. More useful than like I didn't have the trigger guard break before, like the IED one, because you're just mobbing. So that might be like a mobbing versus bossing distinction. I think if it's a boss that you need a lot of survivability on, you could do the Ether Guard Persist, but that's really only if you can get the block to go off, right? I don't know if you've experimented with Ether Guard.
Yeah, I've used it.
Yeah. So if you get that guard effect to go off, it makes your invincibility last longer, but I think most of the time you use it just for the reduced incoming damage and not so much for the invincibility.
That's an iframe, yeah?
So it starts, if you hold it down, it starts as just a reduced incoming damage. But if you use it like the exact moment, just like right before you get hit, sometimes you'll get the guard effect to show up on top of you. And then instead of it becoming a reduced incoming damage, it becomes an iframe instead for, I think, 3 seconds.
Do you know how much like time clearance I have to use it as an iframe?
4 seconds. You have to use it, I think it's like 300 milliseconds or something. Between 0 and 300 milliseconds before you get hit or something. It's okay. Yeah, it has to be pretty close. Have you ever played Mihail a little bit?
Not at all.
Okay. Like Mihail's one of the main attacking skills they have is called Royal Guard, where you have to like basically time a shield in the exact same way. And once you get it, so you time the shield, right after that you get hit by a physical attack, and instead it'll block the attack, make you invincible for a little bit, and do an AoE around you. And as you build stacks, the AoE gets bigger, hits more lines, and starts doing pretty crazy damage. But it makes you invincible for like 3 seconds after, and then you can use it every 4 seconds. So if you use it correctly, you can just immune like the entire boss fight. This one is kind of like a small version of that.
Gotcha.
But yeah, as you use Etherguard more, because it has a pretty short cooldown, right? If you just use it for one tick to not die to an attack, and then move out of it immediately, the I think the cooldown ends up only being like less than 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
So you'll be using it a lot, especially in in CRA boss fight. And then you will just notice that sometimes the block will go off, and if you see the block go off, that means you can jump around a little bit more freely and not be able to be hit. But so it turns into a 4-second iframe by itself, and with that it turns into 5. So in harder bosses where the survivability becomes very annoying, maybe it might be useful to use instead of something like Reign of Destruction, especially if the boss also moves out of it a lot, because then yeah, the effect of the extra 4 seconds might not be as useful. But I think for now you have the right passives, I would say.
All right.
Okay, that was your last question.
Yeah. Time
All
to
right.
go to work.
Yeah, you gotta make sure you don't come late for work. Well, thanks for doing your due diligence beforehand and for being a good listener and a good student. I have a lot
Yeah,
of
I
faith in you.
appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I see you already have like a very good foundation in your equip, so I'm glad I was able to help
Yeah,
you.
your videos definitely helped out.
Okay. I'll take some of the credit for that then. But you still put in the work, so good job there. Yeah, I think you'll get to. It's going to be mainly just a matter of practicing CRA, and I think you'll just have to like fall on your face and die out like 3 or 4 times, and then I think you'll start getting the hang of it.
All right.
All right. Have a good day at work, and
All right, you too. Have a
yes, I will.
appreciate it.
Yes, no problem. I'll see you later, man. Right, you had to go to work. In case that wasn't clear. So yes, thanks for watching. So as you see, that somebody who follows all of my videos and follows some of the instructions that I do can already get to the point of being quite strong. His flames are very good. His potentials are very good on the equips that he has. There's some minor points, you can check out. You can like switch out a Horntail pendant for a Mechanator pendant. You could have gone into Necro gear and Von Leon gear instead of the Penciler stuff, but these are like minor things. The more important thing is learning how to play your character and just practicing, and then you can get to CRA very quickly from where he is at this point. So you can see the total equips that he has in this screen, and like the order he has them tiered up. I assume that this one just happened to go to unique because he was using a Master Crossman to re-roll, and it happened to go to unique is my assumption here. But these are already unique per choice. Have one of the useful lines at least. This one has a little bit of strength on top. This one has a very good flame, despite being Sweetwater. All the other stuff that has flame advantage has good flames. So he's definitely looked at exclamation mark flames, definitely looked at exclamation mark dailies, and did those things, and is well on his way to be able to solo CRA and able to start working on whatever character he wants to main after this. So if you guys like this, thought it was informative, and you would like to get your I's dotted and your T's crossed as well, make sure you follow the information in the description of the video, and maybe after you meet the requirements, maybe I'll be talking to you on another day. So thanks for watching, and see you another time.